Who was the real Mulan? Hey everyone, it's Alexa again, and welcome back to another video. Mulan is significant to people for many reasons. For one, she was the first prominent East Asian character to appear in the animated Disney films. In Chinese folklore, she's an important figure that many people, men and women, look up to. What do you know about Mulan, other than what you've seen in film? Keep watching to find out. But before we get into today's video, make sure that you're subscribed and ring the bell so that you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Was Mulan real? If you never thought twice about it, you might have thought that Mulan was a real person. As far as historians can tell, she only existed in folklore. In those old stories, she was referred to as Ha Mulan. Her story became immensely popular in China. For the longest time, her narrative was passed down via spoken word instead of text. Among the first writings to describe her was the Ballad of Mulan. The story starts with Mulan pondering about the fate of her father should he be called to serve in battle. Mulan disguises herself as a man to take her father's place in the Chinese army. Aside from wanting to protect her father, the poem suggests that Mulan also had a strong sense of duty when it came to serving her country. She stayed in the military for 12 years. Throughout all that time, she was presented with numerous awards for her skill, but refused them all. 1,000 years later came the popular play based on the poem. This play, written by Zhu Wei, was titled The Female Mulan Goes to War in the Place of Her Father. Boy, Disney really cut that title down. In the play, the story specifies that Mulan is only 17 years old and excels in things like swordsmanship, archery, and martial arts. The female Mulan also has Mulan dress as a man not only to join the army, but also to challenge her father for the right to take his place. That's not exactly the story you remember from the movie, is it? Where she's from. Mulan is a character whose origins go way back, so let's talk about some background to give you context. The tale of Mulan is set during the Northern Wei era between 386 to 536 AD. This empire, also known as the Tuoba Wei, was founded by the Tuoba clan, known as the Xianbei. The territories under this dynasty included parts of China, as well as Mongolia. At a time where the government had just instituted many reforms, it's interesting to see a story of such an influential female figure become so beloved. There were many important women during this time. One of the reasons historians say Mulan was fictional is because her name does not appear in the compilation of biographies of female figures entitled Exemplary Women. However, she is mentioned in the collection of stories about women in Chinese folklore, named 100 Beauties. No one's sure if China recruited women to be in the military back then. Some experts think China might have been desperate enough to do so during particular wars. So, what's in a name? For those of us not familiar with the Chinese language, you might be scratching your head at the meaning. In China, the name Mulan comes from the word mu, meaning wood, and lan, which means orchid. The word Mulan is often in reference to the magnolia flower. The Ha part of her name means flower and is a popular surname in China even today. Mulan, on the other hand, became a popular name in Western countries after the release of the 1998 Disney movie. Since Mulan is set in North China, Mulan's family name is pronounced Ha. However, the animated film uses the Cantonese pronunciation of her family name, Fa. Her name might originate from the honorific given to men in the military. The different versions. We mentioned earlier how there was first a poem about Mulan and then later a play, but there are more versions of this folktale than those. The genre of these adaptations ranges from comedy to dark and dramatic. One version is named the Sui Tang Romance, which came out during 1695. It is set during 620 CE, during the start of the Tang dynasty, and features a fellow female warrior named Do Zhanyang. Zhanyang turns out to be the king's daughter. She later becomes Mulan's Lao Tong, or bonded sister. At the end of the story, the rebellion topples the king's government. Mulan and Xianyang surrender to the enemy and offer to be put to death instead of the other men. Instead, Mulan is sent home, where she finds her father has died and her mother has remarried. Other additional aspects of the Sui Tang romance include Mulan having younger sisters and an infant son. In 1927, the first on-screen adaptation of Mulan was released, followed by many plays and operas. Did you know that in the same year the Disney movie came out, China made an animated version where all the characters were talking animals? The Disney version. Now let's talk more about that infamous animated Disney version. Mulan, an animated musical action-adventure film, was released in 1998. Walt Disney Pictures produced Mulan, which was the company's 36th animated feature. Development of the film began in 1994. Several artistic advisors were sent to China to find inspiration in style and culture. Mulan was highly praised by general audiences and critics alike. The movie did not receive such acclaim in China, where box office earnings were low, and many complained of how different the story was was to the myths. In 2009, a live-action film was released in China, which didn't include a small talking dragon or musical numbers. It adhered more closely to the ancient stories. The differences. We mentioned earlier that in the legends, Mulan's family name is Ha, while in the movie, it is Fa. When considering the core of the story in the Disney movie and the originals, they're essentially the same. It's about a young woman taking the place of her father in the army because he's too old to fight. Many modern audiences consider Mulan as a princess, but she did not come from royalty. She also had siblings in the other tellings. In the Ballad of Mulan, she has a little brother. In the animated version, the brother character is her pet dog. In the movie, Shang finds out that Mulan is a woman in the midst of the war. In the old tales, Mulan serves in the military for over a decade, and no one finds out until much later that she's female. The original story also does not include a love interest for Mulan. No other versions of Mulan include anything supernatural or magic. That means no Mushu and no ancestral spirits. In the Zhu Wei play, it is an uprising against the emperor by a bandit named Leopard Skin that prompts the war, not an invasion by the Huns. Before we get to number 1, we've got a question to ask. Who is your favorite animated character growing up? Has it changed? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. 1. The legacy. Even though Mulan's story started hundreds of years ago, the legacy of this brave female warrior lives on. From the varied adaptations to her story's continuing popularity, it doesn't look like anyone is going to forget about Mulan anytime soon. There's even a crater on Venus named after her. Here on Earth, you'll find a statue dedicated to the legendary warrior, located in the Chinese Gardens of Singapore. For you committed Mulan fans, you're probably excited for next year when the newest live-action adaptation of this classic tale comes to theaters.